2021 at 6 p.m. Everyone welcome. And Ms. Berner, if you would call roll, please.
Yeah, Mayor Lowry.
Here.
Councilman Grimm.
I'm here.
Councilman Rodwald.
Here.
Councilwoman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilman Cobb.
Here.
Councilwoman Eggleston.
Yep.
Vice Mayor Cook.
Here.
7 members present.
All right, thank you very much. And moving on to the invocation tonight will be by Vice Mayor Cook.
If you'll please bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, please guide us tonight as we attempt to do the business for the citizens of the city of New Carlisle and provide us with our utmost in the right way of doing things. Please also wrap your arms around our first responders, our paramedics, our firefighters, our deputies, and our troops across the seas. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. And moving on to the pledge, Mr. Grimm has the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of
States of
America
America.
and to the republic
Republic
for which it
which
stands,
it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. All right, and moving on to action on minutes, none. And then we drop down to communications tonight, and we will have 2 guests this evening. We will have Christy Thome and Steve Hume from the for the Mayor's Court discussion. They are both from Enon, and then as well as Jeff Eggleston will be here also to discuss some topic on a possible donation, a building being donated to the city for kind of recreational park use, I guess, if you will. So, Mr. Bridge, if you have the ability to let them in.
Sure. Here we go.
That
We're
would be-
having so about 3 new faces on our screen here.
All right.
So we have Ms. Thome. Hello. Thank you for joining. We have Mr. Eggleston. And we have, I do believe this right here is, I'm sorry. What is your last name again? Hume?
Hume.
Hume. Mr. Hume. Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Steve Hume.
Yeah, so real quick, before we get started, everyone, thank you for joining us today. Jeff, Mr. Eggleston, I wanted to go over to you. Are you on any kind of time constraints?
No.
Jeff, can you hear me?
He froze up.
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, can you hear us?
Oh, he is on a time constraint. I forgot. He's with a scout troop over in Enon, I think.
Okay.
That's
All
why
right.
he's in his car.
Okay. Jeff, can you hear us yet? Is he?
I think his phone may be muted.
Okay. Well, let me see here. Peggy, well, if we call him, he's on his phone. He's probably going to lose connection. So
Let me call him and.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll go with Christy and Steve first, and then Linda, if you could call him, and if he loses connection, Randy, can you or
I think he just lost.
okay, can you guys maybe send him another link?
Yeah, I can get him in.
Your phone appears to.
Okay, so while she's on the phone, we will go ahead and start this discussion. So thank you both for joining us from Enon. As you guys know, I know Randy's talked to you both about New Carlisle City Council looking into doing a similar setup as you guys are, and we appreciate you guys coming tonight. So with that being said, Council, do you have anything you would like to jump in on this discussion with either one of our guests this evening? Mr. Cobb, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. My question being, do we have to have law enforcement there while the mayor or the magistrate court is taking place?
There has to be a bailiff. Doesn't necessarily have to be law enforcement, but in almost all cases that I've had mayor's courts, it's been a law enforcement officer.
Okay, and now as far as
what kind of courts would we handle, like DUIs?
Mayor's courts handle misdemeanor events that occur inside the city limits. With a few exceptions, we can handle virtually any misdemeanor. As far as DUIs go, we can handle the first offense. If there's been a conviction of a OVI in the last 10 years, that has to go to municipal court. We cannot handle any domestic violence case whatsoever. We can handle a simple assault as long as it is not a family or household member. Other than that, any other misdemeanor, I believe we can handle.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there is one other restriction. Technically, a driving under suspension for a FRA infraction, a second offense or greater has to go to municipal court.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cobb. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you guys both for coming. I just had Mr. Grimm, go ahead.
I had dealt with Christie for some time when I was in another life on the mayor's court. Things seem to be moving pretty smoothly there. Do you have any real serious problems with it or any obstacles that you've encountered?
We have not. We run our court very professional. So everyone comes in. Right now, they're going through a metal detector. If the metal detector goes off or it's not working properly, they are wanded. We also are taking temps right now, and we also are sitting everybody at least 6 feet apart due to COVID. So we're taking all the precautions that we can.
What all does Enid do? You handle OVIs, the whole gamut?
We handle everything that Steve just mentioned. He's our magistrate for Enid and has been since we started 20 years ago.
A long time ago.
Back when hair was dark, huh?
Anything else, Mr. Grimm?
I had another question, but it just escaped me, so we'll let it ride for now.
All right, just let us know. Mr. Vice Mayor.
In my trip over there to Enid, I was greatly impressed by both of these two folks and the way the court was run over there at Enid. I think both the mayor and I sat there and kind of was, I guess the word is an observer of the way that things ran, and were greatly pleased with the way things were handled.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Vice Mayor?
No.
All right. Anyone else? Mr. Grimm.
The main reason this popped up at a mayor's court is because the county courts won't handle a lot of our cases, like from the planning director, the code violations. Those we'd be able to handle too.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of my favorites.
Well, we always want to keep the magistrate happy.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Yeah, the one thing, let me, if I might say something, the one advantage you have with a mayor's court as opposed to sending everything in municipal court is things that are of a local issue, the zoning issues, the code violations, the barking dogs. They're not going to get the time of day in the municipal court. They're just running through to get it in and out. But we can listen to the situation, handle the situation as appropriately as we possibly can. And that's I think, probably the biggest advantage you have for a mayor's court.
Oh, another question. Do we have to have a police officer with jurisdiction in town? Can it be someone who is licensed as a policeman, but is not with?
In terms of a bailiff, no, they don't have to. Technically, they probably don't have to be law enforcement. So you could have a security guard or something of that nature. In terms of when they're citing somebody, that's I pass that question up to the law director.
You good, Mr. Grimm?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, thank you, sir. I just had a couple, and thank you again. Thank you both for coming. It was really interesting to watch you guys, watch the process play out. And even in that time that me and Mr. Vice Mayor had stopped by, I know that you'd covered some of the things that you guys do handle, but can you pick and choose what you want to do? For example, OVIs. You can choose not to do that, I would assume, correct?
Technically, you can. If it gets cited in the mayor's court, there are some issues that may need to be addressed that it just is not appropriate for a mayor's court. We can then transfer it up to municipal court, and they would be able to handle it. For the most part, however, I'd rather keep it in mayor's court. I don't generally like to boot it up anywhere. The other major issue would be is if for some reason the defendant in front of me has had a prior relationship with me as an attorney somewhere else, that would have to be kicked up to mayor's or to municipal court.
Okay. So, but anything that you may, and I don't know if this is the right term, but something maybe you don't feel, and I'm not putting you down as far as your knowledge on the subject, but if it's something that maybe is a big scale or something that you're not knowledgeable on or don't feel comfortable with, would that be the situation where you may kick it up? Like it's a DUI that involved a wreck and maybe somebody had gotten, killed in the accident. I mean, is that a situation where it would get kicked up?
It's a possibility. You would have to look at the complexity of the case and the resources that the city has. I don't know that we've ever just flat out kicked it up unless the defendant has a right to kick it up.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I've heard motion hearings and everything else in Enon. I know they had a really complex case a while back, several years ago, involving a deputy sheriff, I think from Montgomery County, Christy.
Correct.
Yeah, and we had motion hearings and heard it there. Eventually, the village asked that it be transferred to municipal court, and that we did that.
Okay, great. And then another kind of broad question is you'd mentioned the ordinances like barking dogs and things of that nature. Do you guys feel that it's pretty proactive as far as it helps with those problems like the barking dogs, or is it still kind of carry on even though you're ticketing people for
that's something I think you folks are going to have to make that decision. I think it's, if I go back to my days as a safety director of London, without enforcement of the ordinance, you're not going to have an effective ordinance. So for instance, barking dogs, if it's not prosecuted, then what's the sense of having it on the books?
Okay.
I mean, now that's personal opinion, but that goes back to not my position as magistrate, but as my position as the safety and service director for the city of London.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you very much. I think that's all I had off the top of my head. Does any other council members or Mr. City Manager, attorney have any comments, questions, concerns?
I do.
Mr. Bridge.
Yeah. You had said earlier, Mr. Hume, that, if you had a conflict of interest with someone that was in our mayor's court, can you explain that a little bit more? So is that a conflict of interest? Say maybe you had an issue with them and maybe an Enon, or is that like for your own personal attorney that you may have helped them with a case?
Yeah, no. If they've been in Enon in front of me as a magistrate, that's not a conflict of interest.
Okay.
The conflict of interest would come up if I have represented them, that person in a civil suit or in another community where I was either the prosecutor or the defense attorney. That would create that conflict of interest. For the most part, I doubt very seriously that we're going to have any conflicts with New Carlisle.
Sure. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
We have had some of the same defendants at Enon as in South Charleston. So he's seen a defendant on Tuesday and then Thursday seen him in my court. So it does happen to have the same defendant.
Bad week.
Okay.
Definitely for him.
But it's in the grand scheme of things, though, for a village or a city our size, it is a tool, in your opinion, and I know we've talked about this before, that gives you a little bit more control over your own codes and ordinances to kind of battle and keep those in line, correct? I mean, would you agree with that?
That would be my belief, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Christy might be able to help you answer that from the Enon's perspective. We've had several zoning ordinances in, a few loose dogs or dogs at large. I don't think we've had too many barking dogs.
We have not, but typically on a property like a zoning issue, the magistrate typically will, he'll give the sentence and then he'll say, I'm going to suspend this as long as the property is, satisfactory to the village of Enon. So then the zoning inspector needs to go back out prior to the next court date to verify that the village is satisfied. I think he's also, of course, we've worked together now for 22 years. I think there's one defendant he also gave not restitution, community service. So she actually laid asphalt with our road crew one day.
Oh, wow.
Not saying he's going to do that to everybody, but he did do that to her for her property. I think it's her choice what she wanted to do.
I think the service director just got a little excited. They might get some
Free labor.
right, free labor. So go ahead, Mr. Grimm.
This is for Christy. We would have to have a clerk. Is there a lot of training or certain specifications the clerk needs to follow?
It's not mandatory, but a clerk of court should go through the Ohio training and go to the trainings. That's where you're going to get your education, your updates, and your networking to be able to do your job.
Okay.
Great question, Mr. Grimm. What kind of piggyback off that? Now, what kind of time are you looking for a course like that? Is that a very lengthy course, or is it?
They do have new clerks training. It comes up every year, but because of COVID, they're not doing it right now. And then to keep your certification, you have to go to 2 trainings, spring and fall, every year. Typically, they're in Columbus or up north or somewhere in Ohio, and we go for 3 to 4 days.
Okay, great. Mr. Hutchinson, I think you had your hand up, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to see how y'all handle out of towners. So we deal with property owners here, and we have a lot of property owners that live out of state or out of town. How do y'all deal with that?
Well, it's far more what the village is going to do. The most zoning ordinances are written for the property. To throw you a really big legal term, it's an in rem situation, where the issue is the property. How you get a hold of the and jurisdiction over the individual who is an out-of-town owner is an issue that the village is going to have to deal with. And that would be something that you should talk to your law director about. Typical attorney, just refer to somebody else.
What's your opinions on that, Mr. Jeffries?
As far as citing someone under criminal ordinance when they're, I can't give you an answer at this time. To me, the best way to proceed against that property owner would be the civil provisions of the code. Because typically you see out of state defendants like on traffic offenses and stuff like that. So they're actually within the jurisdiction to be cited, and then they have to appear in court later. I don't know how it works if they're not in the jurisdiction to be able to cite.
Well, our codes are specific to property owners. All of our liens or anything that we have to do if we do a cleanup or anything is assessed to the property, where therefore the property owner has to be contacted and be the one in charge of that. Other communities I know in the past, municipality courts, they mailed off court summons to out-of-towners that they still had to come into town and appear. And they have the options of bench warrants. If they don't appear, they issue a bench warrant. I'm just a little curious on the kind of how, say, if we cite, even if it's a in-town resident to mayor's court and they don't show, what have you seen in these other communities? What is the outcome of that if someone does not show?
Typically in Enon, we'll give them a failure to appear letter, giving them another opportunity to appear. After the second one, then we typically do a license forfeiture, we do registration block, and then I do an order in letter, and then it goes to the magistrate. He looks at the case and signs off on a warrant. Not all mayor's courts do warrants though, because some of them do not want to deal with, if they're arrested, what they're going to do with them.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Hutchinson?
I think that's all I got right now. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else? All right, well, again, thank you both for taking the time out of your busy day and week to join us. And thank you again, Mr. Bridge, for working with both of them to make this happen and communicating the information back and forth. It was very interesting to hear your guys' comments and opinions on some of these questions. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us.
And do you need us for the regular council session? I know I got 2 invites, but.
I don't believe so. Does council, no, we're not going to be doing any kind of.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're good. So.
All right,
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Mike, can you hear me?
All right, Jeff, I can hear you. Are you there?
I'm here. You can't look at me and talk to me at the same time because I can't get my phone on the voice thing, but
Okay.
I can talk to you anyway.
Okay, well, as long as we can hear you and you can hear us, that's I think that's all we need. So first of all, thank you for coming. Do you want to just kind of give us a rundown? I know we've all kind of heard it, but just where you and Zach are at with this building and what you guys would like to see come of it.
Okay, well, we're going to do something with this building. And what we would prefer is to have it salvaged and rebuilt or moved to someplace in town so that the city can get the benefit of whatever it brings. And we can help with some of the expense, and I will personally help with whatever I can to make the things happen and move along. I've talked some to the Rotary Club, not at our level, but the level above us, a district level.
Okay.
And if this house is going to be used some for educational purposes, like if school classes are going to visit or something, there might be a possibility of getting some money from there. And so far, I have not asked for people like house movers to look at it and give me an idea what it would cost or anything. I just wanted to find out if there's a place that the city can put it and make sure that the city is interested in it before I invest too much time or take too much of other people's time and efforts to, work out money details and stuff.
Right. Okay. And, I don't know if you'd listened into the last council meeting or if Peg or Linda had kind of filled you in on what was said. I think the city standpoint is, I think everybody's very interested in it. I think it all obviously boils down to money. What is it going to cost to move it? All those questions go along with it. So with that being said, Mr. Cobb, I saw you had your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Mr. Eggleston.
Yes.
The shingles on the side of the house, have they been checked for asbestos?
They're cedar shingles.
They're
They're
not
cedar.
gold
They're
shingles.
not asbestos.
they're newer shingles, what you're saying.
No, they're not very new shingles, but they're cedar shingles. They're wood shingles.
Yeah, but some of them also had asbestos in them.
No, not wooden ones. I know what you're talking about because I have 2 other houses that have what you're talking about, but these are not asbestos shingles. These are wood shingles.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Cobb?
No.
All right, thank you. Any other council members? Okay, Mr. Rodwall, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Eggleston, do you know of any termite damage or anything that has been done to the building over the years?
I've owned the house for, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 years. And I've never had termite issues with it.
Okay.
I've torn off a few of the shingles on the outside, and the logs that I've looked at so far have been nice and solid looking.
Okay.
And yeah, no termite problems that I know of for at least 25 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Bridge, go ahead, sir.
Hey, Mr. Eggleston, thanks for coming. So Mr. Cobb had asked about the shingles having asbestos in it, but has that structure's been wrapped with siding? And the actual log cabin is underneath the siding, correct?
That's right.
When was that wrapped in siding?
I have no clue.
Okay, so that's something we want.
The siding and shingles that are on it right now have been on it as long as I've owned the property.
Okay. When we were looking at the Bell Manor property, we had a phase 1 environmental study done on that. And one of the houses that actually were across the street, Jackson, I do believe, came with that property as well. And during the phase 1 asbestos, it was determined that there was actually asbestos in the actual siding of the house. So have you considered or thought about getting any sort of environmental on that? Because if the council decides to undertake that, clearly that would have to be abated before the structure is moved.
I've not considered it because I know that these are not asbestos shingles. They are made out of wood, and the siding that's underneath the shingles is made out of wood.
So the whole siding around the current cabin is made of wood. It's not synthetic. Well, not synthetic.
That's right. That's right. I've owned 2 other houses that have the shingles that you're thinking about. And some of those do have asbestos, but the shingles on this house are solid wood.
When we say shingles, those are traditionally on the roof. I'm talking about like the siding that goes around.
Well, they're called cedar shingles.
So those are on the side of the house as well.
Yes, and they're made of cedar. They are not synthetic material at all.
Sure. Thank you for clarifying that, sir.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Bridge. Ms. Eggleston, go ahead.
Jeff, is there any water damage in the house from maybe roof leaks or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, there might be, I don't know if they're drippy lines or we've had the water turned off and the heat turned off. So there may be water line stuff, but there's no damage, no physical damage that amounts to anything that I know of.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Grimm.
Jeff, thanks for joining us. Have you ever had the building inspected for structural integrity?
No.
But you think it's pretty sound?
As close as I can tell. Like I said, I've torn a few of the shingles off and down close to the bottom, and I figured if there's damage, that's where it would be. And it looks nice and sound now. My thought is that if there's any damage, there'll be a log or 2 that might be soft in places that may have to be patched or something. And I've watched some videos and stuff where people have moved and reconstructed log cabins, and it shows how they piece logs together. If there's a rotten section, they'll take it out and put a new piece in. So I don't think at this time that there's going to be any serious major structural problems with it.
Okay.
I'm done.
Now, there was a slight fire in that place before I bought it. It wasn't very bad, and I don't think the rafters were even damaged, but if they were at all, that would be the only damage that I would know of. And really, once I find that the city does want it, if it works out economically, I'll start getting into it more and really dig in and find out for sure if it's all structurally sound, and find out, get prices from movers to see if we can move the building in one piece and how much it would cost, or if we're going to have to take it apart and rebuild it piece by piece. But it's really an interesting old building. There are logs in that are probably 18 inches thick.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Hutchinson.
Yeah, Jeff, planning director here for the city. Do you know any of the history of the property as far as maybe when that building was originally constructed, or any use throughout its history?
I've got a stack of papers at home that I can dig out. It's about a good inch thick. It's the titles to the property over the past 150 years or something. It just tells me who's bought it, and every time it's transferred, they have the paperwork that goes with it. So I've got a lot of that, but I don't know. I don't think I actually got back to the very first part of it. But I know that our historian, gosh, I can't think of his name right now.
Dave
McWhorter.
Yeah. I think he has done some digging in on that. So between the two of us, we can probably come up with some pretty good stories on it.
Okay. Was you good, Mr. Hutchinson?
Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kitco, don't forget you're muted.
Is there any way that hey, Jeff, how you doing? It's Howie.
Oh, hi, Howie.
Been a long time.
Yes, I haven't seen you for a long time.
I'm wondering, yep, same. I'm wondering, Mr. Bridge, if myself, Derek with his woodworking background, and Mr. Hoke, who has been in construction, building for some time, we could do just walk in it. I've never been in it. Couldn't really tell you really what it looks like on the outside. Maybe we just walk through this if Jeff is okay with that here sometime real soon.
Sure, I'm perfectly all right with that. And just give me a holler when. I'll bring lights and stuff. We have the power turned off, so there's no lights inside. But yeah, I'll bring some lights for us, or you can bring flashlights or whatever. And if you give me well, if you want to see it later on this week, be okay. I'm going to be away next week. The week after that, I can probably tear a little bit of that siding off and see a little more structurally, or what kind of condition the logs are in on the outside. So you can either look at it now, or you can look at it after I do a little more digging on it.
Okay, Mr. Bridge.
Or both.
Okay.
That's whatever your schedule does warrant, Mr. Kitco and Mr. Hopes and then Mr. Hutchison. I would like to extend that out to council as well. I think council should have an opportunity to definitely go in there and take a look, Mr. Eggleston. If we can coordinate that, that would, I'm sure you would have no problem with that as well. We'll have
If
some
you'd like to,
administrators-
if you'd like to look at it before Thursday evening, I'd be more than happy to walk through it with you. And if that's too quick, well, you can go look at it anytime.
I'm pulling-
Okay. Well, Howie, I don't know if you know your guys' schedule on Thursday this week, but I don't know if you want to talk with Bob and Derek and see what works for you guys, and maybe just shoot out an email or something.
Yeah, I can do that and see maybe shoot on a early Thursday afternoon if it works out for everyone and whoever else. We're just, I just know by us three, it'll just be more technical inspection part.
Yeah, definitely. We'll go Mr. Bridge and Mr. Grimm afterwards.
Just if council does go with the administration, just keep in mind that you will be discussing city business, so you would need to be below that 3-person limit.
Correct.
Sure.
Yeah, if you end up ironing out a time, Mr. Kitco, with your other workers, and then Mr. Eggleston, maybe shoot out an email, and then that way council will know what time that maybe a couple of them can go up there, if that's okay with you guys.
I'll work it out with Randy and so forth.
Okay, great. Is that okay with you, Mr. Eggleston?
Sure.
Okay. But
Thanks,
yeah,
Jeff.
Jeff, on just a kind of a rundown. I mean, I think a lot of people are interested in it, so I don't think the lack of interest is in question at all. It's just basically, obviously, money. What's it going to come down to move it, and if any or all repairs, what it will take. So that's all I have to add. Does anybody else have anything else? Linda, you're muted.
You might talk to him about where we were talking about locating it.
Yeah, go right. I mean, if you'd like, go for it.
They were talking about locating it over on the north side of the park near Washington,
Okay.
so that it was accessible without going deep into the park and whatever.
And you're talking about back by the woods or up by the basketball court?
I think she's back by the kind of catty corner from the new playground, correct, Mr. Bridge? Is that what you were thinking?
Just somewhere in that general area. The reason we want to have it closer to Washington is just we have any utilities that need to run through that, whether it be electric.
Sure. I think that's a great place for it.
Yeah.
And it would fit really good with Smith Park too. So, Jeff, one more question, Jeff. I forget if someone else mentioned it. I don't know if it was you, Peg, or I thought somebody mentioned. Is that someone said that was the oldest or the first log cabin that was built in New Carlisle, the first log house, maybe? Is that true? Do anybody remember hearing that?
That's what Dave. I think Dave told me that.
Okay, maybe Dave told me. I couldn't remember who told me. So, okay.
But it's an old one, and it's real interesting. I'm anxious for you guys to see it. And if it works out for you on Thursday, I think that would be great.
Okay.
And we can just walk through it, and I won't have anything torn off the outside probably, but we can take a little closer look at it. And from what you guys have told me today, I don't mind getting into it further now.
Okay.
I don't mind calling up a house moving company and say, hey, come and talk to me about this thing.
Okay.
And maybe I can get some idea on prices, and I can start talking to people who have some experience with tearing the things down and rebuilding them. So yeah, I feel a lot more confident about going out and doing that stuff now, but I just didn't want to waste people's time for professionals to come and look at it and then find out, well, the city's really not interested in it. So
yeah, no, I think the interest is definitely there. Like I said, it just comes down to what's it going to cost. So, Mr. Grimm, did you have something else? I thought your hand was up.
I would just like to be one of the three on the walkthrough.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, as soon as we hear something from, I guess, Mr. Bridge, Mr. Kitco, if that's going to work for them, then council can go if they have the time. So, all right. Anything else?
There's some stuff right now that's stored in there, and there's just some junk in the house and stuff that you have to kind of look around, but it's perfectly safe to go through, and it's not like you're going to be going into a restored cabin right now, but
right.
You'll be able to see the value of the whole property.
Okay, great. Well, any other questions for Mr. Eggleston before we cut him loose?
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And
Yep.
just give me a call if you want to do that on Thursday. And be happy to do what I can to make a thing work out for us. I think it'd be a great addition for the city.
I will fire off his contact information to everybody here.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Have a pleasant evening, sir.
Well, I'm
Thanks,
going to a
Jeff.
Boy Scout meeting now, so it'll go downhill from here. Thank you so
All right.
much, guys.
Yep. thank
Thanks,
you.
Jeff.
Take care,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Bye.
All right, Mr. Bridge.
Yeah, just so we know, just a friendly reminder, in regular session, we can just, you guys have to make them, I guess, you guys have to do a motion to pick your 3 to go, or do you guys want to do 2 different groups or 3 different groups? However you want to do that, we'll just address that later on.
Yeah, I've been in it, so I don't need to go. But yeah, we can get that at the regular session. So, all right. So, Peg, Linda, what's it like to have the nicest brother in the world? I mean, you guys feel the same way that we do about him?
I think he's the nicest brother because he came over and blew the snow off of all of my sidewalks. Peggy is jealous because he didn't go over to her house.
Oh, wow.
I guess being the baby, I have to do my own.
All right, moving on. City manager's report. None. Comments from members of the public. Mr. Bridge.
We do have one.
All
I'll
right.
read it for the, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
It is from Donald Hall. It says, "Good evening, council and administration. My name is Don Hall, and I'm a resident of 609 West Jefferson Street. Outside of the planned meeting agenda, what specific projects are members of council currently working on, and what's the goals of these projects for 2021? Are volunteers needed for any of these projects? If so, how can members of the public assist?" Question mark. Thank you, Don Hall.
Does he have experience in moving houses?
Oh,
I don't think so.
all right. Go ahead, Mr. Nowakowski.
Well, I would address 2 things with that. One, that we really need to sit down and seriously discuss is we have a mandatory charter review this year. I've found one person to be on that, and we need 5, I think. We need to get serious on this so that they're not rushed in dealing with it. Reading our charter is not a evening read.
Right.
The other thing is that I have been having Zoom community meetings just to get to talk to people about what they want, what they feel we need, how we can do things. I've gotten varied response on it, but I've had a number of people contact me and say that they thought it was a nice way to be able to get together and do some of that kind of talk and dream and whatever. I mean, one of my chief things is trying to rebuild a real community here where a lot of the community in this town was focused inside of organizations, churches and card clubs and fraternal organizations. And a lot of that is gone now. So people don't have real ways, institutionalized ways of getting to know each other. And I'm just hunting for ways to try to make that happen.
Thank you, Ms. Nowakowski. Anyone else? All right. Just off his email, Randy, I don't know if he's referring to like city projects or, I mean, he really didn't say, just, projects within the city. So, I mean, I know when we do the community cleanup day, when we have the dumpsters and things, I think we're looking for, don't you take volunteers for that project as well when we fill the dumpsters?
Yeah, but it's usually like the Pride workers and then the city worker volunteers. But I'm sure we could fit a resident volunteer into that. Not a problem at all. More than Yeah, absolutely.
We never turn volunteers.
No,
Yeah.
not at
Yeah,
all.
and Linda hit a couple good ones too. So that's Mr. Hutchinson. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I'm going to be trying to get some volunteer groups together to work, maybe work close with some of our local churches and schools to help some of our citizens that may need help, cleaning up their yard after the winter, or or getting ready for spring and summer. So just maybe some local handyman that want to lend a little time to maybe repair a door or repair a deck or something like that. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely be looking for volunteers from anybody we could get this year.
Okay, great. And I'd spoke to, I think I talked to you, Mr. Bridge, about the call I'd got from Bill Zimmerman. He was asking if if there was any good use that the city could put him and his church to use for some community-based projects. I don't know if he'd pass it on to you, Mr. Hutchinson, but it was just something he was looking for. I think you guys had already talked about it, but I just wanted to bring that up again. He was calling and just, wanted to lend a helping hand if there was any places needed. So just keep that in mind as well, Mr. Hutchinson. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Cook.
Couple of things. With the governor kind of relaxing the COVID restrictions, and if we are thinking about having the fireworks this year, we're going to have to get moving on it very quickly. Is council, I guess the word is thinking about instituting the fireworks back into play this year?
Council, any comments? Mr. Grimm.
I would like to see them come back.
Mr. Rubin. Good.
Yeah, I second Dale's second Dale. I think as we get further along into the year, into spring, summer, I think there's no reason we shouldn't go ahead and getting the plans together for a 4th of July fireworks show. So yeah, I think Bill and Ron, if they're still wanting to spearhead that whole thing, I think they should definitely start doing it. If there's anything I can do, please let me know.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Dan. Linda, go ahead.
I would just like to throw in a cautionary tale. We do these things as late as we possibly can, because there are just too many chances that it could recur. I'm just, don't go out and sign a contract tomorrow kind of thing.
Right.
Just be cautious.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
go ahead, Peg. You got your hand up.
Yeah, I agree with Dale and Dan. I think we need to get working on it to get something going.
Yeah. And I would agree. I'd agree with the rest of you and Dan. Go ahead, Mr. Bridge.
Absolutely. Just keep in mind that if they do this, there'll still be restrictions as far as probably crowd size, social distancing. So city council should be prepared to spend a little bit more money on enforcement, because we will be responsible to make sure people, if there's still a social distancing aspect to the governor's rules, whether it be for parades, whether it be for heritage of flight, we will be responsible to make sure that people are adhering to those. So that's something we have to keep in mind. It's very easy to sign a contract, but we also have to have crowd control in place. So we'll probably have to get a few more volunteers, namely under some extra duty cops, to maybe help with that crowd control.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Rodwell, did you have something else?
No, I'm sorry. Nope.
Okay. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Well, the thing I'm looking at is the fact that we're going to be talking to American Fireworks. We're probably going to have to get something on the, I guess the word is, with him fairly shortly. And if we're talking about food trucks or food vendors, that type thing, I think we're going to have to pretty much get that lined up, because sometimes those people are lined up a year in advance.
Yeah.
So things are going to have to move, and they're going to have to move fairly quickly here. I know I was going to impose upon Dan to talk to Kirby and get something going as far as the baseball situation. And I don't know whether we want to kind of pick a date, but I was looking at the calendar, and July 3rd is a Saturday night. And if that were to be, then the possibility of having a farmer's market run a little bit later in the day would also be a great situation to bring this to foretell.
Yeah, I think actually last year, wasn't that the plan? And I think I think Roy from Abington Treasurer, he was originally planning on doing a night market on our 4th of July, but then COVID hit. So I'm sure he would probably be pretty interested in looking at that option again. So, but yeah, I'm all in favor for it too. I think if anything, citizens and pretty much anybody needs some cheering up, and if we can do that, I think it'd be a great way to do it. Mr. Hutchinson.
Yeah, I was speaking to a new resident that we just moved into town today, and was just telling her about all the great things that we have. The parade, on a normal basis, our parades and our festivals and the farmers markets and the car shows, and trying to get her, excited and let her know that, hopefully this stuff comes through this year, because it's quite an experience that we have here. So yeah, hopefully things start clearing up when we get these things going.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, let's get down, if it's okay with you, Mr. Cook, and we can, because we've got about 8 minutes. Can we pick this up in the normal session, and then let's get down to legislation for the work session? So we don't, okay. So we'll pick that up in the next meeting. So comments from committee reports, none, resolutions, none, ordinance, none, other business, legislation discussion. Mr. Bridge.
Thank you. So we have 2 ordinances on tonight. Both of these were introduced at the last meeting on February 16th. The first one is ordinance 2021-03. And that is an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase a new command vehicle for the fire and EMS department. We also have ordinance 2021-04, and that is an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase a new Draws of Life for the fire and EMS department. So it is fire and EMS themed ordinance night tonight.
Right. All right, council, any discussion or questions or comments on those 2 items? Mr. Rodwell.
Mr. Bridge, those were already into the budget, correct? We are already planned the 2021 budget.
Yeah, they're
for
in
those
our
2 purchases.
Yeah, they're in our CIP.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Just Mr. Bridge, real quick. This just hit me, and it's kind of like probably way too late to even consider it. Could either one of these been taken care of through the CARES Act fund, the vehicle possibly? No, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people were going out and buying individual cars for the departments.
I didn't know what the requirements were.
Here's the deal. Yeah, to me, it was really splitting hairs with the requirements of the CARES Act. Bigger municipalities who got millions of dollars, yeah, I can see that. But if you take 40, 50,000 out of our little pot of money, it kind of takes away from protecting other aspects of the town. Yeah, the Jaws of Life, I don't know about that, but the command vehicle definitely.
Yeah,
probably.
It's no big deal. I was just curious. I didn't know what the stipulations were for vehicles or tools, so I was just wondering. So, anyways, that's all I had. Any other questions on this?
Actually, I'm going to redo that. We've had this budgeted for a couple of years. So since didn't we have this budgeted last year too, sir, Fire Chief?
So yeah, so that's the reason. That's the reason we could not use the CARES Act money for the vehicle, because that was actually budgeted in 19. And then with everything happening with the COVID, we said, well, let's wait to see what we're going to do, and we'll hold off. And with the CARES Act money, with the stipulations that are already being in that previous budget, we were not allowed to purchase it with that money.
I think I remember one of you 2 actually mentioning that. So thank you.
Perfect problem.
Ms. Nowakowski, go ahead, please.
I had just a quick question. Is it possible for us to get the agenda, that stack of papers that we used to get, so that I don't have to print it out here and be able to deal with it during a meeting. Just a question.
That's for council. If you need me to print out a single piece of paper and put it in your mailbox, I don't have a problem with it.
You want the whole packet or just the agenda?
I mean, I would like to see the packet so that when we're talking about it, I have it in front of me to be able to look through instead of trying to put you guys off screen and pull it up on my computer to be able to see it.
Okay. So
And
she,
printing out those things is just a real pain.
okay.
They'll go through a black ink cartridge in a hurry on my little printer.
Well, does any other count? Okay, let me get back to that because I think we're going to continue on that subject. Go ahead, Mr. Cobb.
That was the purpose of going to the iPods, was to eliminate the paperwork being printed out. If I'm not mistaken, correct, Mr. Bridge?
Ooh, yes.
I'll answer it for you. Yeah, that was the. I got it.
Tell me what you guys want me to do.
No, that's what we could do is we could maybe just, if council's okay with having Mr. Bridge do so, maybe just print up 1 or 2 packets and leave them maybe up on top of our mailbox so that maybe, I saw your face, Randy. What do you, give me some feedback, everyone. I'm just trying to make everybody happy.
I mean, but the whole point of going to the iPads was to switch it over. It is, if you want to print out the whole packet, it is a lot for a home personal printer to do. Like I said, I'll do whatever you guys want. If you want me to do a couple packets and put them up top, I'll do that. That's not a big deal. Just let me know how council wants to move forward.
Because your problem is, Ms. Nowakowski, you're on the iPad now, correct?
Right.
So you're bouncing between screens.
If I want to see something on that agenda, I have to bounce between screens. And
Do you have a smartphone?
yeah, but you want to try to read the agenda on a smartphone.
That's what I do. I keep my agenda on my phone, keep it right in front of me.
It's what we can do, seriously. If any council member wants to just email me, hey, can you print a copy of the packet for me? I'll throw it up there. It literally takes 5 minutes. But we are been trying to reduce how much because we get charged if we hit our volume amount for the copies we print. So once we go over that monthly allowance, then we have to start paying for those copies. So that's why we decided to go with iPads to keep the amount of paper going off. But it also too, we were also making a lot of packets for actual people showing up to the meetings as well. So like I said, if it's a couple people want a packet, just shoot me an email. We can get you one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also,
we can also too supply you with your own ink if you'd like. You can put a purchase order in. The city, since you are a council member, we can supply your ink for your home and you can print it off on your own accord as well. So you guys do have a budget for operational supplies that if you guys wanted ink for your printer to print out work-related stuff, we can go ahead and get that for you.
Okay. All right, we got 1 minute before we got to start the next meeting.
I still got another question here.
Go ahead, Mr. Cobb.
Chief Trustee,
Yes, sir.
what are you planning doing with the other pickup, the old pickup?
Right now, we're going to use it for a utility vehicle in the station and that type of thing, maintenance, and also if one of the other assistant chiefs wants to use it as a duty night. We're planning on just holding on to it, but we're not planning on putting any large amounts of money into it as far as maintenance or anything like that.
Okay, I just had a question there. I wanted to ask it.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Cobb. All right. Anything else before we go for adjournment and start our next meeting?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cobb, I think second by Mr. Roadwall.
All right. Councilwoman Nowakowski,
Yes.
Councilman Cobb,
Yes.
Councilwoman Eggleston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cook,
Yes.
Mayor Lowry,
Yes.
Councilman Grimm,
Yes.
Councilman Roadwall.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn accepted 7-0.